I'm George from Delta Hydrofoil, and this is going to be a continuation of some previous topics that we've talked about for kite hydrofoil tuning. So in the past we've talked about eliminating whistle and how to properly shape the trailing edges of your wings in particular, but also your struts and your stabilizer. And in the first two videos I explained that it's a good idea to square off your trailing edges, and I've subsequently found that that is somewhat true but not absolutely true. So what I found, as I described in the previous video, is that if this is a magnification of the trailing edge of your wing, and this is perfectly squared off, with this perhaps being a millimeter, which would be maybe 2 credit card thicknesses thick, and these surfaces are very flat and this is very square, this actually whistles a lot. I went through a lot of effort on several very special wings, and I flattened this with a sanding block. I flattened this and I squared it perfectly. It looked absolutely gorgeous, and man, was that loud. Incredibly loud. And then I noticed that actually some wings that I hadn't spent as much time on didn't whistle at all. And those wings were shaped a little bit more like this. So it seemed like you do need a flat trailing edge. You certainly don't want it sharp, but you actually want it slightly rounded over going into that trailing edge. So what I started doing was that I started with a sharp squared off edge like this, and then I just put bevels in it after, and that seems to be working pretty well. I tried just beveling the bottom, and that whistled quite a lot. So I'm not sure if beveling the top would do it all on its own, but at this point I'm sort of doing both top and bottom. The other thing that we need to talk about as well is safety. With these trailing edges, they're pretty thin, and I think the key to making these as safe as they possibly can be is to make sure that the trailing edge of the strut and the wing and the stabilizer is extremely smooth. If there's any roughness or serration in that trailing edge, then basically you've created a serrated knife, a carbon fiber serrated knife. And if you kick into that or you just rub up against it, it's going to cut you. But if you take a flat sanding block, as we went through in the previous videos, and you really sand that square with the bevels and go to really fine grits, like better than 600, maybe to 1200, and really get that edge polished, then what I find is that even if you rub that edge pretty hard with your hand, it won't cut you because it's smooth. Whereas if there's any fiber or roughness or nicks in it, it will cut you very badly. So, for your safety, I highly recommend that you pay attention to these edges and dress them very smoothly, and you'll get the benefit of both having a really quiet foil and also one that's as safe as it can be. So when you do this, it may not work the first time. Whistling is kind of a tricky thing. Sometimes you'll have a wing, it won't whistle at all. Other times you'll have a wing that just keeps whistling, and you keep sanding and shaping. But keep at it. What I would recommend is that you really do it in good light and really look at that trailing edge, what it looks like, and then carefully sand with a hard sanding block to get this trailing edge the way it needs to be. And I think with that, you guys should be in pretty good shape in terms of having a good wing that is safe to ride and also quiet.